Hard to believe we're at the end of June, coming up on the beginning of July, but it's time to check in with MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, and good to talk to you. And it's been a minute since we've talked, but the way life works, it feels like it hasn't been that long either.
Yeah, summer is flying by, Chris. It's good to see you, and we'll be together at Football Media Day before you know it. So thanks for the chance to check in and talk a little bit about what's going on around the conference.
You guys have not taken any time off, it doesn't look like, by what we're going to get to today. Pretty busy day. We'll start with the summer CEO meetings and everything that went down about with those, and overall just kind of the feelings about the conference's position and direction moving forward now.
Yeah, meetings like this, Chris, are a great opportunity to kind of take the pulse of at least where I think we're at as a leader in the conference, and I'm happy to say that our presidents are very unified in really their strategic outlook of what they think the MIAA is and where they think we can go. And there are a lot of things that play into that. The CEOs at their meeting last week, talked about our MIAA network, talked about the idea of growing the conference. Talked about all of the changes that are happening at especially the Division I level. And I think, for those reasons, having a strong network, having quality facilities on our campuses, having a very passionate fan base in all of our communities, having programs in many sports that are competing for national titles, I think all of that translates to the MIAA having a very strong brand and really, the outlook for continued success and future membership growth are very real. So it's a great report. It was a great day of meetings with the presidents. They're very engaged. I think they all feel very positive about where the conference is right now.
This will kind of segue into our next topic, but you talked about the growth of the conference and also what Division I is continuing to do. We see the rumor mill at the Power Fives, what's going to happen there. Is there any clearer of a picture of what Division I is doing, or is that something you guys have to continue monitoring and figuring out where they're going to go?
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of changes that they are trying to work their way through, and exactly what the membership can support, what's best for Division I as it relates to their congressional discussions that are taking place, how they continue to protect Division I and the NCAA in litigation, what it means to be a Division I member. That's a big topic, and I think as that gets discussed and decided in the next 12 to 18 months, I continue to be convinced, Chris, that there are going to be a few schools that are currently in Division I that realize that they're spending a lot of money and pulling resources from different parts of campus, and they're just not going to be able to sustain that. And it's not good for the long-term health of the university. And I think some of those schools are going to have to figure out, where they belong. And a few of them in our geographic footprint, might make a good member of the MIAA and competing for national titles at the Division II level. So we'll see how all that shakes out. But I think our presidents believe, Chris, that we're well positioned for continued success in Division II or success in whatever a reorganized NCAA might look like at whatever point that might happen. So, but those are issues that we have to continue to monitor.
Talking about segueing into our next topic, when the MIAA loses a school, you guys seem to pick one right back up. You guys will be announcing this later today as well. Do you want to make the announcement? Do you want me to toss it into you? However you want to do it. This is your.
I'm excited to make the announcement,
Yeah.
Chris, that the University of Arkansas Fort Smith will be joining the MIAA as a 14th member, replacing Lincoln University when they depart. in the summer of 2024. Arkansas Fort Smith, they do not have football, so that would put us at 11 football schools and 3 without football. It's a great university, a public university, and a growing community in Northwest Arkansas. Outstanding leadership. Their chancellor, Chancellor Riley, their athletic director, Curtis Jantz, great leaders on campus. They're excited to be a part of the MIAA. They look at the map of where they're located and how close they are to a number of MIAA schools, and the ability to create some rivalries and to play schools that their fans can travel to. And this is an area, Chris, that we have a lot of alumni in that Northwest Arkansas area. We have certainly a lot of our coaches are recruiting outstanding prospective student athletes from that area. It's nice to add another state to the MIAA footprint without, increasing the geography or the travel for our membership significantly. So it's a very good fit, and we're excited to welcome them. And as I mentioned earlier, the presidents have a plan for strategic and steady growth of the conference. I think our immediate goal is to try to get to 16, and by doing that, Chris, we'll be able to create divisions within the MIAA, a North Division, a South Division. That's going to make the MIAA, I think, even more attractive for adding, an additional football school, maybe another school that doesn't have football, to maybe in the next couple of years get us to 12 football and 4 without. But it's really important as we look at the MIAA and try to maintain the momentum that we have. I think it's going to be adding these type of regional public universities in our geographic area, and certainly Arkansas Fort Smith fits that profile.
You talked about geographically what they were doing. Why do you think the MIAA appealed to Fort Smith to make that jump over to you guys? Because you talked about what made it sense for you guys, but what do you think made sense for them to make this move?
I think primarily it's geography and the type of experience that they want their student athletes to have. Right now they're part of the Lone Star Conference. A lot of long bus rides that they are taking to compete against schools in Texas and New Mexico, and driving through some communities where we have MIAA schools to get to their
right.
Lone Star opponents. So I think this decision helps them certainly keep student athletes closer to home, probably not missing as much as many classes. But I also think that as we talked about earlier, the ability to move into the MIAA, we have a strong brand. The success that we've had in a number of sports, and the strength of our programs, the strength of the communities where we're at, and how loyal they are in following their schools, both at home and traveling with their teams. I think all of that plays into Fort Smith's decision, and the opportunity to build some rivalries, to create some opponents, some games against opponents that will really excite their fans to follow that. So I think there's a variety of reasons, but as usual in Division II, geography plays such a critical part of this, and it is at the top of the list.
Follow up, but also a question I think fans always love to have in conversations on social media too. You talked about maybe the goal of getting to 16. How do you guys balance that between getting another football school? Do you go with 12 football and then 16 and 4 without football? What goes into those discussions of figuring out what's best for the MIAA when it comes to how you pick that part of I guess the projection of what the conference could look like?
Yeah, I think on all of these decisions, Chris, it's got to be a win-win. And I think our presidents have done a good, they've done a good job as we've analyzed opportunities with institutions to figure out those schools that add value. It's got to be a good fit. We've got to add value to the conference, and we've got to make sure it's a good fit for the university that wants to join. When we added Newman, the ability to have a school now in the MIAA in Wichita, Kansas, played a big part of that. When we added Rogers State, a growing public university just outside of Tulsa, and having a school now in the Tulsa region was important. And the same thing with Arkansas Fort Smith, and the ability to add a school now in Northwest Arkansas. So all of those things play into it as we evaluate, future opportunities. We're going to have to not only make sure that we're offering some benefits to an institution, but they're adding value to the MIAA. And as I mentioned, our presidents want to grow. They believe that you're either growing or you're shrinking, and they want to play offense. They want to be proactive, and they want to get bigger. And part of that strategy is to, eventually get to a point where we're in a North and South division. And I think that's going to make the MIAA more attractive for schools, north of our border, our current border. They're going to see a divisional alignment that probably provides some geographic opportunities that are more enticing than their current conference. And same as we think about a South Division in the MIAA, that as you start to look at the 7 or 8 schools that you'd be competing against in that South Division, what does that travel look like? So, that's part of the overall strategy to continue to keep the MIAA strong and healthy as a Division II conference.
I feel like we're just segueing from one topic to the other, and they all kind of fit together here in the first couple. That's done intentionally. No one thinks for that. We're just doing this off of our head. Although we could do this off the top of our head, but
easy.
Yeah, exactly. The conference sponsoring a week 0 football proposal. Football scheduling is always a hot topic for everybody, coaches, fans. I know the conference, just football season's right around the corner, and everybody wants to talk about what things are going to look like. What goes into this proposal that you guys have presented?
Yeah, so we're happy that we put this in as a MIAA sponsor proposal. It's supported by the Division II football coaches organization. Coach Mel Churchman brought this to my attention, and we jumped on board right away. It relates to membership. The ability to go out and find non-conference games that you can schedule. If you've got open weeks in week 6 or 7 or 8, it's really tough to find an opponent to play. And so this proposal, and we've seen similar action at the Division I level, to actually start the season a week earlier. And this proposal would provide that opportunity for all Division II football playing schools and conferences. It's permissive legislation. You don't have to start early, but if you want to, you can. And what the way that Division II football is structured right now, Chris, is that we have 11 weeks to play 11 games, and that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And then the teams that make the playoffs, you could play 15 or 16 Division II football games in consecutive weeks. So this proposal not only provides greater flexibility in helping schools find non-conference games that week 0 or the week before we could start now, but it would also, for schools that want to schedule in week 0, at some point during the season, it would give them an off week, a bye week for recovery. And we feel like this really is a no-brainer when you think about the health and safety of our student athletes, to give them that time to recover, to get well, to heal, to take some time away from football. Like I said, our coaches are in favor of it. We've got a couple of other conferences that have joined on as sponsors, and we'll have to try and get this passed at the NCAA convention in January, and then it would be in place the following fall, the fall of 2024.
I know after Lincoln made their announcement, some of the conference teams were kind of looking to see what they could do with that week. And there were some coaches that I'd heard from too that it's hard to find those games, or no one wants to come to us in the middle of the season. Was that one of the leading charges in this? Is because you have a week 7 open date. You have, especially with the way postseason is built, you don't really probably want to have some of those unless they're by design later in the year where you only have 10 games or whatever it may be because you have that open date not by design.
Absolutely. So if you're in a conference like the MIAA or the Northern Sun now that have an odd number of football teams, every week during the season, one of your teams is off. And so that's what we're facing in 2024. And this proposal would really provide schools some options. You can continue to, have that off week as an off week and play your non-conference game in week 0, where you have a lot more teams with open dates that would provide greater flexibility in scheduling. Or you can try and find your non-conference game during that off week, whatever you'd like to do. So this opens up all sorts of scheduling options, especially for those conferences with an odd number of institutions that play football, and conferences like the MIAA is now committed to having non-conference games and trying to, make sure that we're playing games that help prove the strength of the conference against other conferences, especially those in our region.
I know I'm looking about 6 months into the future, but is there a good feeling that this is something that could be or should be passed come January, or is that something that you guys are just trying to get more support behind right now too?
Well, I'm not going to take anything for granted. I know at the commissioners' meetings I just got back from, there was a lot of support. And I think recognizing that it's permissive, if the Northeast 10 Conference doesn't want to do this, they don't have to. They could still start in week 1 and bring their students back to campus when they normally do. This just provides greater flexibility for those conferences, those schools that need it to build out a schedule, and the added benefit of really a bye week during the season that provides some rest and relaxation and recovery time for our student athletes. But that's the beauty of this. It's permissive. You don't have to do it. If you want to, you can. And, really that's the legislative world that we should be living in, trying to help schools that need help to maximize scheduling opportunities in our regional model that give us that comparison data. And if schools don't want to start early, they certainly can come in when they normally do.
We aren't short on announcements in this week's show. Like we said, it's been about a month since we've talked, so quite a few things going on. I know there's a few other announcements that you want to make here. I'll let you go ahead and start with another new wrestling member as well.
Yeah, so we're bringing in another associate member, also in Arkansas, Ouachita Baptist University in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, and Ouachita Baptist will return the MIAA to 6 wrestling programs, and that's the NCAA minimum. So we're back back in compliance with that NCAA standard, and Ouachita recognizes the NCAA and the success, really the long-term success that we've had with our wrestling programs, Central Oklahoma, Nebraska Kearney, Fort Hays State University, the University of Central Missouri, Newman University, all of those programs placing wrestlers at the national tournament Central Oklahoma winning the national title this past year, Nebraska Kearney winning it the year before. So Ouachita knows that they're joining the best, and that's what they want. They want to take their program to another level. We welcome them, and we're excited that they will be wrestling with us in next year's schedule as an associate member in the MIAA. Another exciting announcement, Chris, by our athletic directors when they met. They wanted to find a way to continue to honor the legacy of Jerry Hughes, who passed away in January, longtime athletic director at the University of Central Missouri. And the ADs have come up with a new award called the Rising Star Award. And it's intended to recognize really what it is, a rising star in the MIAA. It might be a coach, it could be a trainer, could be a communications director, could be an assistant AD, but somebody that's emerging as a leader. And this award would certainly provide that type of recognition. Jerry Hughes was so great at spotting young talent, bringing on a coach that, he would have for a while, and then allow that coach to get better and to grow, and then, go off to bigger and better things maybe at Division I or in pro sports. And, Jerry certainly had his share of rising stars that he hired and developed, and that's what this award will recognize. So we're excited to get that started. I think our first Rising Star recipient will be recognized at next year's MIAA basketball tournament. Okay. We plan to do that every year at our basketball tournament.
Another announcement, I know you guys elected some new chairs for the MIAA governance groups too. You want to talk about those for a minute?
Yeah. So, we put our ADs and presidents and SWAs to work, not only attending meetings, but leading our meetings. And we're excited that our new 2-year terms for these chairs will take effect this summer. Roger Best, the president at Central Missouri, was elected the new chair of the CEO Council. Corey Reed, SWA at Missouri Southern, has been elected as the new chair of the Institutional Reps Council. Cole Shoemake, the faculty athletic rep at Pittsburgh State, has been elected the chair of our FAR group. And Rachel Page, the SWA at Nebraska Kearney, is the new chair of our athletic administrators group. So I think we've got pretty good representation from around the conference. I think we've got all 4 states that are represented here, and we're excited to have these folks leading our groups and carrying the strategy of the MIAA forward.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, I'll get you out of here on this one. Everybody's favorite topic the last, 2 years now. I think we're 2 years into name, image, and likeness, and how all that's playing out. We're seeing it in a variety of ways. The Division I level, that's continuing to evolve. We've seen both sides of the coin with that one at that level. But for the MIAA, what have you seen from the NIL, and what opportunities has that presented to student athletes?
Well, as you know, Chris, states continue to liberalize or adjust their NIL statutes. Missouri's got a proposal in front of Governor Parsons that would, allow more opportunities for schools to be involved. And I think it's just a matter of time. Some of the things that you see at the Division I level with collectives, I think it's a matter of time that that's going to happen at the Division II level. And I hope the first one that we see develop is at an MIAA school. We have a few schools that are working hard to try and get one started, and it will happen in Division II. And as I continue to tell people, NIL in Division II is really about education resources. It's about providing some money, and it's not a lot of money we're talking about, but additional resources to Division II partial scholarship student athletes that will help give them the resources they need to pay the balance on their educational expenses. And I think that's a very positive thing, and one that will be easy for our schools to sell. The type of individuals that are really providing to collectives are a lot different, Chris, than you see at the Division I level. The type of big donors that come in and provide money for capital projects or buildings or new facilities. That's not really what they're seeing in Division I as the primary donors that are trying to help build up resources in these collectives. And I'm confident that'll be the same in Division II. It'll be a different donor base. It'll be different alumni, different boosters that will be attracted to try and help student athletes in this direct way. It won't be the type of person that wants a legacy mark for a university with their name on a facility. It'll be, probably a former student athlete that realizes what intercollegiate athletics provided to them and their path towards success, and they want to give back and directly help a student athlete complete his or her degree and provide the educational resources to do that. Those will be the donors that make up these collectives, and collectives, I'm convinced, will be a big part of helping schools be successful in recruiting student athletes to their campuses. And as I said, it's gonna happen in D2, and I'm just hopeful that we're out in front of this, and we see a few of our MIAA schools that are first in line in getting these things set up.
Never a dull moment in college athletics or in the MIAA. As we've taken a couple weeks off and several announcements coming through. And like you said, in about a month's time, we'll have football media day, and that's kind of the here we go moment, right? I mean, I look at my schedule and I'm like, oh, Chiefs camp is going to be in St. Joe in about 3 weeks. And after that, it's MIAA football media day, and then high school sports go, and then here we go again. So it's never a dull moment.
I've got about three weeks of summer left, but I love it. I love, I love football season. I love getting back after it, getting student athletes back on campus, our volleyball student athletes, cross country student athletes. It'll be here before we know it. You're right.
Absolutely. MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, it's a pleasure as always, and we'll touch base here pretty soon too.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.
Take care.